Welcome to Shoot This Now, the podcast where every week we talk about stories that should be made into movies. This week, if you're hearing some atmosphere in the background, it's because I'm coming to you live from a JetBlue lavatory on a plane that has been grounded because there's a dent in the nose cone or something. And so we're just sitting here at LAX for a long time. This is the second flight I've been on in my life with LL Cool J, who happened to be up in the Mint section. And this is the second time I have witnessed LL Cool J being extremely cool, get it, to a person who asked him for a photo. In fact, once I saw him pose for like 50 photos. When people ask me who the nice celebrities are who I've gotten to meet, I have to mention Jeff Bridges, who was our guest last week, who was super nice. I always mention Bryan Cranston. And I have to also add LL Cool J to that list, because this experience on this not very pleasant grounding, it's not a flight yet, really told me what a nice guy he is. This week, I was excited to talk with Tom Arnold, because his new Viceland show, The Hunt for the Trump Tapes, has a great segment where there's a producer named Kristina Gorolevich, I hope I'm saying that right, Gorolovic, maybe, goes back to her home country, Belarus, in search of the infamous Golden Showers Trump video that has never been proven to actually exist. She does it at potentially great personal peril, including to her immigration status, and it would make a great movie. But we barely got to that, because this interview with Tom Arnold is an interview with Tom Arnold. And it is, to be honest, sort of a frustrating interview, as I think you hear in my voice, because he offers a lot of accusations and zero evidence, and I spend a lot of time trying to get him to back up what he's saying without success. I have a friend who describes Tom Arnold and others kind of in his realm as examples of "you're not helping," because it's so convenient for Trump defenders to point to Tom's unsuccessful reporting to impugn all of the very good reporting about Trump. But I appreciate that Tom refers to great reporters like Jane Mayer as real reporters. Jane Mayer is one of the many real reporters who turns up on his show. I don't love the idea of giving a platform to people who make accusations that they can't back up, whatever their political beliefs. So this has been kind of a tricky episode. Trump has done that himself, making accusations that are completely unproven. And so some people think, okay, let's fight fire with fire. But I'm honestly uncomfortable with that idea, because someday, long after Trump is gone, our new diminished standards of accuracy will remain and will make us all collectively less informed, whomever the president is. There are two things I say to reporters in my role as an editor at The Wrap, and one is that we don't report rumors. If something is something that everyone knows, it should be really easy to get multiple people to share that information in an official capacity, and if it isn't solid enough to meet that standard, we shouldn't run it. The other thing I say is if you're going to hit the king, you need to kill the king being the subject you're reporting on, not necessarily a specific human being. When you swing and miss, you look weak and the king looks stronger, and I think, honestly, that the kind of innuendo-driven comical coverage that Arnold is doing on The Hunt for the Trump Tapes is very much missing the king. For a lot of people, including me, that means The Hunt for the Trump Tapes is for entertainment purposes only. He says he's seen some things, but he can't prove them. Arnold himself describes The Hunt for the Trump Tapes as All the President's Men meets Curb Your Enthusiasm, and that's a very good lane for him. The fact that he knows a lot of people Trump knows, and Trump himself, is a commentary in itself about what a freak show moment we're in, like the entire country is in a super engrossing episode of The Howard Stern Show in 2003. A lot of people would like to ignore Tom Arnold and the porn stars and all the other surprising characters who keep turning up, but you can't, because the President of the United States invited them into his life, and into all of our lives. All this is a long way of saying I wanted to hear Tom out for a few reasons. First, I actually enjoy his show. It made me laugh. Second, I wanted to give him every opportunity to prove the things he says, which he unfortunately did not do. And three, I really think the Kristina Gorolevich story would be a cool feature film. Tom's superpower in all of this, the thing that makes him qualified to be involved, uniquely qualified to be involved, is that he knows such a wide range of people, from Mark Burnett to Arnold Schwarzenegger to Trump himself. He could be the perfect person to dig up some crucial piece of information, even though there's no indication that he has. For example, he makes strong insinuations about Trump and an elevator tape, and though I pushed him very hard on details, he couldn't provide really any. So I cut a lot from that segment, and I will drop in and let you know when I've done that. I also edit out a lot of monologuing about Russia and the space station and all sorts of other things that just kind of went on a bit. And I re-recorded and double-tracked my voice in places where the audio isn't great because Tom was much better than I was, which is a huge disadvantage because he already has the advantage of talking nonstop. Finally, I reached out to several people for comment who are mentioned to let them give their perspectives on what he said. The White House, surprise, surprise, did not answer me. I guess they have other stuff going on. But Trump himself has said on Twitter that there is no apprentice tape of him saying the N-word. Former NBC executive Chuck LaBella has not responded to my attempts to reach him for comment. Mark Burnett declined to comment, but here is a statement MGM has made in the past. Quote, Mark Burnett does not own The Apprentice or its footage. MGM Studios owns The Apprentice and all its materials, including all footage. Mr. Burnett is an employee of MGM and does not personally have the right to release unused footage from The Apprentice. While MGM owns all footage, various contractual and legal requirements also restrict MGM's ability to release such material. Burnett, by the way, is the chairman of MGM Worldwide Television Group. So, with all that said, our longest intro yet. Wow. Here's Tom Arnold. We start off with me asking what his show is all about, and then he talks pretty much nonstop. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you for listening.
Well, the show is called The Hunt for the Trump Tapes, and what it is, I started my a thing with Donald Trump, who I've known for 30 years, and it's the first time I've ever known someone that's become president for 30 years, and the first time I've ever been to the Playboy Mansion with someone that's become president. And I used to say I wasn't the creepy guy, but then I realized I went to the Playboy Mansion with a guy, and we went to see his girlfriend, and he was married at the time, and I went with him. So I'm also a creepy guy. I'm just not the creepiest guy, but I am a creepy guy, because what kind of a guy goes to the Playboy Mansion with his buddy, knowing he's married, to visit his girlfriend? So I'm also a creepy guy. So I'm also complicit in all this stuff, because he used to come on my sports show, Donald Trump, and he would say, I'm here out of respect for Tom Arnold, because he's my buddy. And that always made me feel good, I think that the thing about this show is that, looking back, going back down to Fox and looking at the footage of the first time he came on the Best Damn Sports Show, now, in hindsight, and seeing when he sat down, the first thing he said is, look at that over there. And it is 4 15-year-old girls sitting in the front row. And it didn't click at the time. And then he was promoting The Apprentice. And I said, hey, which one of the guys on the cast here is going to win The Apprentice? He said, oh, John Sally, because he's black and he has every advantage in the world. And now, looking back, it's not 2004, but it's different. There's something about it. And so we went on. I went to the Elton John Pediatric AIDS Oscar party with him and Melania and me and my wife at the time. And so, it was that kind of relationship. It was whatever. And he would call my house, he and Mark Burnett, and ask me to be on The Apprentice. And The Apprentice, let me explain, it was a show that's so bad I didn't go on it. No, I've gone on everything. I've taken every crappy thing. You can look it up. But it was so bad that I said no. And I also said to Mark Burnett at the time, I'm afraid to go on there because I've got an odd personality and I will punch Donald Trump in the face, because I know I get agitated being around that close quarters with celebrities. And that's what they do. They agitate you. And more power to them. That's a fun thing to watch. But I knew I would physically fight the guy. So I would say no. And then in 2011 or so, he started this birther thing where he came on TV and he said that the first black president, Barack Obama, wasn't born here. And that bothered me personally, because Barack Obama, his family's from Kansas, a small farming town. I'm from a small farming town called Ottumwa, Iowa. And I always connected to Barack Obama because our grandfathers looked exactly the same. And I grew up, if you grow up in a small farming town, and I didn't have a mother growing up, and Barack Obama was black. And so if your family's different in any way in a small farming town, you'll get picked on. And I knew that his grandpa had to defend him growing up, and same with mine. And so when I saw Donald Trump on TV, I thought, well, you know what? His grandpa is going to shut Donald Trump down. And then I realized, oh, no, his grandpa's dead. And his mom was also dead. So there's nobody to go on TV and defend Barack Obama and say, hey, shut up, man. My kid was born, And so I called Mark Burnett and go, what are you doing about this? Because he's hosting the show. He's hosting The Apprentice still. And it was outrageous. And nobody did anything. And nobody at NBC did anything. And they just let this guy go on and say this horrible racist thing. And it was terrible. And everybody just let it go on, and so that was kind of I'm not a but that was subconsciously a big deal to me. So 2013, my buddies go with him to Moscow for the Miss Universe contest because they're the same friends. There's an overlap. There's people that work on the Best Damn Sports Show that worked on The Apprentice. There's people, my friends, that worked on the Miss Universe. So there's a lot of overlap. And the fact there's so much overlap in Tom Arnold's life and Donald Trump's life, who became the president, is a problem. That tells you right there he should not be the president. So they go.
It tells you should be the president.
No, I should absolutely not be the president. So they have a great time, and they tell me about the hooker party, and they tell me about that stuff. And still, he's not going to be the president. So I go to Moscow to film a movie in 2015. I stay at the Ritz-Carlton. That's where I live. And the guy that finances my movie is the guy that threw the hooker party for Donald Trump. And so he's like, hey, do you want to have a party like that? And I say, absolutely not. I do many things, many bad things. I'm a recovering drug addict and alcoholic. I'm a crazy person, but I don't do that. And I know I'm being filmed there. And by the way, everybody that's there is being filmed. I'm sure there's film of me taking a dump and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, so I assume he's never going to be the president.
Right.
But in 2016, the Access Hollywood tape comes out, and that seems like that's the end of this thing. And by the way, my friends that worked on The Apprentice for 15 years, they have to edit him down. They film a full day at Trump Tower, the boardroom set. It's a set. And what they do is they edit that 12-hour day down to 20 minutes, which is what they show on television, because he's incompetent. He doesn't know what's going on. He's racist. He says the N-word. He says you're fuckable right into camera to the camera operators, and they're like, whoa! And 4 times during that, my friends, the executive producers, they had to pull him out. The producers have producers meeting. Whoa! Well, you can't sexually harass the women here. I mean, it's written up. Mark Burnett knows all this 100%. He's running the show. They've had to pull him out of there. Mark Burnett is literally one of his best friends in the world. He still talks to him to this day 3 times a week. So anyway, they've had to edit this guy down. Anyway, they sell that Donald Trump to Ottumwa, Iowa, where I'm from, and that's his base. My family all voted for Donald Trump except one, and they're like, this guy's a genius. He's the deal maker. And they end up electing this guy. The whole time I'm like, you got to show the real Donald. You got to show a day on the show after the Apprentice thing faltered. You got to show the real guy. And there's, by the way, I've seen a compilation tape that my buddy shared where he says the N-word, and he calls Eric the R word. We share all these tapes, me and my buddies, because they're hilarious. And when we share them on every host, by the way, including myself, except we don't think we're going to be the president. So when that comes out, I speak publicly in October 2016. I said, I've seen him say the N-word and this other stuff. And then people are like, well, you got to find that. So I called my buddy and said, you got to resend me this tape. And they're like, oh, my God, we're going to be murdered by Donald Trump people. And I've got a $5 million NDA from Mark Burnett Productions right now because I still work there. Well, I said, well, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll call Mark Burnett. I'll go see him and have him let me rebuild that. So I go to Mark Burnett's face. I go, buddy, you got to let me put that tape back together to show America what this guy's really like. And he's like, hey, nothing could be worse than grabbing by the pussy. So and Donald Trump wants the tape too, Tom. And he's having Michael Cohen call me. I'm not giving it to him. I'm not giving it to you. He's going to settle down.
Okay, I want to back up a little bit.
And keep doing it. He doesn't settle down. I'm going crazy on Twitter. And then Viceland sees that, and they come to me one day in March. They say, hey, do you want to do a TV show? I say, well, yeah, because I'm going to keep doing this thing anyway. And by now I've got a few other real journalists that I'm working with. I say, sure, I'd love to do a TV show. And that's what we're doing, a TV show. I'm going to keep I'm doing what I'm doing. And I've got Viceland's nice enough to help me out with some producers and cameras and beautiful aesthetics. Yeah. But, I'm doing what I began to do, which is getting him to resign.
Okay, so some follow-up questions. Who in Trump's orbit in 2013 in Moscow said that they'd had a party with prostitutes and urination in the bed?
Well, if you look at the list of people that went with him for the Miss Universe contest,
right.
Just look at the list of the people from NBC, for instance, the talent people.